1, 2, 3. 3 count 4.
Hello everyone, I am Be Better Gamer. Welcome to Be Better Gamer Wrestling, the channel dedicated to wrestling video games, fueled by my love, passion, and obsession for them. I am playing WWF WrestleMania 2000 on the N64, part of the legendary series of CAW video games, and I am bringing you another one of my created wrestlers. I am finishing up the Heart Foundation. The last few calls have all been based on the Heart Foundation, and closing it out is none other than the loose cannon Brian Pillman, the honorary member of the Heart Foundation. I mean, not honorary member, he was the member of the Heart Foundation, the only member of the Heart Foundation, I guess I want to say. Not from Canada, he's from Ohio, but he trained with the Hart family in the dungeon, and he was just as good, if not one of the better members of the Heart Foundation, way ahead of its time. I'll talk about that in a bit. The profile, moves, fighting style, everything for this call you can find in the description below. I have it all typed out in a spreadsheet, so if you want the full call, make sure you check the description. But right now we're going to just jump right into the attire. So we start with the body in WrestleMania 2000, body size 0, skin tone 1. Brian was a light heavyweight, if you will. Ring attire 6, 0, and 1. That's actually technically the Undertaker's attire. I went with this instead of just the plain black pants because I like the texture of it. It's got like that leathery texture that was very similar to the tights that Brian wore. Entrance attire 10, 0, 21. Ironically, the Stone Cold Steve Austin vest. Brian always wore a black vest to the ring in his time in WWF. Head 0. Skin tone 1, face 50, which if you're in the know for the CAW games, face 50 is actually Johnny Ace's face from Virtual Wrestling 2. Hair 1, 4, and then I went with 3, which is more of the dirty blonde kind of color for his hair. Hair 2, 43, which is actually duplicated. There's another front hair, I forget what number it is. It's like 20 something, but it's the exact same front hair. And then facial hair 12. Equipment, wristband 1, nothing flashy there, just 1. The color is white, so number 2. And then I actually added knee pads. You can kind of see them. I went with knee pad 7, 0. I think those are the knee pads that X-Pac wears. I did it to give him a little bit more texture on the tights as well. And for boots, I almost backed out. Boots, feet 0, the default basic 1, 0, and 11. His boots were always a little bit, just a tad bit shorter than normal boots, so I went with those. You can give him the normal boots if you want, personal preference. Ring attire 6, same thing. This outfit is actually based off of his outfit when he fought Kevin Sullivan at Super Bowl. It was the only time I ever seen him wear an all red version of his, long pants attire. Actually, the long pants that he wore in WCW and in WWE were very reminiscent of the tights that you can find in WCW NWO Revenge that Chris Benoit wears, the sort of 4 Horsemen tights, because on the inner thigh there's like a little bit of color there, and those tights are in Revenge but they're not in WrestleMania 2000. For his third outfit, we went with the classic Flying Brian look. You take away the facial hair. I gave him ring attire 22, and I went with 7 for both colors. It's actually a two-tone look. I think this is the outfit that Sean Stasiak wears in the game. I forget. Instead of the regular orange tights, I went with this one to give the sort of look of sort of the leopard print he used to have. Knee pad, just go with the regular knee pads, turn them black, and then feet 3, 2, and 11. He wore white boots. In Virtual Wrestling 2, they have sort of the leopard print tights that are a little bit more closer to what Brian wore. So you could do that. You could still use Johnny Ace's face. You can make him perfectly in Virtual Wrestling 2 now that I think about it. Just use basically the exact same stuff. Upper body, this is his 4th attire, and his 4th attire is sort of like I'm coming to the ring with someone attire, so I basically just gave him the vest that you would give him for the entrance attire. And for some reason, I don't have his knee pads or his correct boots on for this attire. What was I thinking? Let me go ahead and change that real quick. But there you go. Those are the 4 outfits I decided on for Brian Pillman. There you go, that looks much better. For Brian Pillman in WrestleMania 2000. Again, this is a full call. The moves, parameters, fighting style, everything is in the description below. Make sure you click on the description, not only for that link, but for a bunch of other useful links. And we're going to go into a match in a minute with Brian Pillman, I always like to go into a match after I do my CAWs to show you what else I did with the CAW move-wise. I had to basically make the moveset on my own, going off of a lot of his matches that I've seen on the WWE Network and elsewhere. Mostly everything's on the WWE Network because he wrestled for WCW and WWF. So I built this CAW from scratch. But we're going to talk a little bit about Brian Pillman. There's a lot to cover. I'm definitely not going to have enough time to cover everything about Brian Pillman. So I want to start by saying, go read the recent biography on Brian Pillman, Crazy Like a Fox, the definitive chronicle of Brian Pillman 20 years later, written by Liam O'Rourke. You can find it on Amazon. In the description below, I'm going to have a link where you can purchase it. If you buy it through that Amazon affiliate link in my description, I get a small percentage of that transaction. It's a great way to help out this channel. It's not a paid ad. No one's paying me to promote this book. I'm just a wrestling fan bringing you CAWs from old N64 wrestling games, and I love finding more about sort of the behind the scenes when it comes to not only how these shows are put on and how these promotions run their business, but also the wrestlers themselves. Crazy Like a Fox is probably, no lie, one of the best wrestling books I have ever read. Very fascinating look at someone who I think many critics of wrestling agree, as well as myself, someone who was way ahead of his time. Even looking at his relationship with Stone Cold Steve Austin, you know, him and Stone Cold Steve Austin, they were a tag team in WCW. They were known as the Hollywood Blondes. And they were kind of put together because they didn't really have any use for them. They didn't know what they wanted to do. They didn't really see any big potential in either of them. They thought they would be good mechanics, good hands to help get other people over. They ended up getting themselves over because we're talking about Stone Cold Steve Austin, number one, and Brian Pillman himself, who, again, not only was he ahead of his time because of his high-flying style that he incorporated on very early in his career, before his major car accident that he would have while after he left WCW, but also his mic work. He was excellent on the mic. He had excellent promo ability, and you know, he blurred the lines a lot. I talked about the second outfit was based on his match with Kevin Sullivan at Super Bowl VI. During his pretty much the last time he was in WCW, he was involved in a match with Kevin Sullivan, and this is while he was developing the loose cannon gimmick. And it was supposed to be an I Respect You strap match. And Brian Pillman comes in and they're just fighting. They're just brawling over the place. No one's really putting the strap on. And then he grabs the mic and he says, "I respect you, Booker Man." Now, if you're in the know, the Booker is someone who helps put together the card and makes the matches. At this time, you know, in the mid-90s, you didn't talk about that on screen. He was effectively fired, quote unquote, you can't see me do the air quotes, after that event by Eric Bischoff. Bischoff claims that it was a storyline him and Pillman were working towards, where they were keeping everyone in the dark, where Pillman was going to go off to ECW and then come back. And he actually never came back to ECW. He would go to WWF, and the book goes into great detail about those events. And it's just fascinating how Brian Pillman was able to blur the lines in and out of the ring with his character. If Brian Pillman was alive today, if Brian Pillman had access to Twitter, imagine how crazy that would be. When he was in WWF, he helped in a lot of ways usher in the Attitude Era with his original feud with Stone Cold Steve Austin and the infamous, you know, Stone Cold going to his house and Brian Pillman pulling out the gun. WWF had to apologize for this segment that they aired, which was very controversial at the time and kind of still is, but you know, it kind of helped them develop their Attitude Era style programming, as well as develop the intensity of a character like Stone Cold Steve Austin, the realism of a character like Stone Cold Steve Austin. And Brian Pillman, a lot of the work he was doing very quickly in WWF was very real. His feud with Goldust after Stone Cold was maybe a little bit too real, but it showed and it highlighted how incredible of a performer he was. Even after his accident, you know, when he went to ECW for his brief time, he never wrestled a match in ECW. He got involved into a car accident that effectively shattered his ankle, and he could no longer work his high-flying style that he had developed in WCW, and that limited him very well as a performer. And then he would have another case of unfortunate luck, really tragic luck, when he would pass away on the day of the Bad Blood pay-per-view, the infamous Bad Blood pay-per-view, which had the very first Hell in a Cell. He suffered a heart attack, which wasn't related to him using his prescription drugs that he actually developed a habit for. A lot of people thought that's what it was. He like overdosed because he got addicted to prescription drugs from the result of the pain he was dealing with his car accident. It was actually because of a heart disease that his father had, that he went undiagnosed with, and he died at the unfortunate young age of 35. He is survived by his son, Brian Pillman Jr., who actually started wrestling in 2017. He wrestles for MLW. He's over there with Teddy Hart and Davey Boy Smith as the New Era Hart Foundation. Pretty cool. So his legacy still carries on through his son, but also through a lot of the work that, if you look back in retrospect, we're very pioneering to what's going on in wrestling today. Again, read the book. There's a documentary on WWE Network about Brian Pillman. He is a fascinating character if you don't know enough about him. But that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this call. Follow me on twitch.tv/BeBetterGamer if you want to see me stream this game as well as other wrestling games. You can find me on social media at BeBetterGamer. Check out my other WrestleMania 2000 calls, my No Mercy calls, Virtual Wrestling 2. And until next time, you know what to do. Keep watching all the wrestling. Take it easy, everyone.